Thank you for watching videos by Jeff Sibelius and LandAndAirPhotos.com. In the last episode, we took a tour of the Autel Explorer screen. Now let's dive into the settings to help you make the drone work best for you. Before we get started, this episode is part of an entire series of videos designed to make you a better, safer drone pilot. If you want to learn about drone flying, take this opportunity to subscribe to the channel. Just click the little cartoon Jeff on screen right now to subscribe, and hit the little bell icon so you'll be notified when I post again. Previously, we took a tour of the Autel Explorer app. Now let's get into the settings and configure this drone to work best for what you want it to do. We have 3 spots on the screen where we can tinker with the Evo's settings. The cog in the upper right corner provides access to most of the settings. In the bottom right corner is the folder with a wrench, which is the camera settings. Like I said before, these options don't affect the camera as much as they affect how your camera view looks, but there are some good options to set, so we'll look at those. Finally, along the bottom is the camera parameters bar with your photo and video settings. Let's start with the cog icon and go through the aircraft settings menu. Along the left you have several tabs. Each tab opens a list of settings options to the right. By default, Aircraft Status tab is selected. On this tab, you can check the status of your compass and trigger a compass calibration if one is needed. If you need a calibration, the app will give you a warning message. You may also need to calibrate the compass after a firmware update. Otherwise, you should not need to calibrate. Flight mode shows if you're currently in GPS, ADI, or some other mode based on your connection with satellites. Beneath that are status listings for the IMU, or the Inertial Measurement Unit, which is part of the system that keeps the drone under control as you fly it. Beneath that is command stick mode. Your drone, along with 95% of all the drones out there, is set to command mode 2. That means your left stick moves the drone up and down, and your right stick moves the drone forward, backward, and to the sides. Choosing mode 1 swaps the stick functions. If you choose Mode 1, you will spend the rest of your flying life not understanding any manuals, YouTube instruction videos, or conversations with other drone pilots, because they'll all be using Mode 2. I encourage you to leave this one alone. Next you see indicators for the remote control battery, aircraft battery, and aircraft battery temperature, image transmission signal, and gimbal status. Finally, we see the status of your SD card. If I had a media card installed, I could also format the media card here. The next tab along the left is flight control. By default, I think the drone ships in novice mode. This slows down the drone, limits its distance and altitude, and disables intelligent flight modes. In novice mode, the rear obstacle avoidance will alert you to obstacles and stop the aircraft before it collides with the obstacle. If novice mode is shut off, the rear obstacle avoidance system will give a warning signal, but it won't stop the drone moving backwards. If you're a beginner, try a few flights with novice mode enabled to build your confidence. Then come to the screen and turn it off. Go home altitude is the altitude your drone will rise up to before it attempts to fly back to the home point when a return to home is triggered. You want to make sure your go-home altitude is high enough to clear any obstacles in the area. I usually set mine around 100 feet, then adjust when I'm flying around construction sites or other places where I have to avoid taller obstructions. Remember, in most countries the maximum altitude you can fly legally is 400 feet above your home point, so don't set your go-home altitude above that unless you have a really good reason. Speed mode is something added to the app with the latest version release. You typically fly in standard mode, but you can choose ludicrous to make the drone fly faster, like sport mode on a DJI. I forget how fast the Evo will fly, but if you want to max out its speed, choose ludicrous. This will increase your risk of crashing and decrease the stability of your video, so I encourage you to stick with standard unless the need for extra speed arises. Speed limit gives you the options to select a maximum speed your Evo will operate. The slowest setting is 11 miles per hour, which gives you the smoothest possible video, but it is really slow if you're trying to cover a large distance. You can speed things up to 22 miles per hour and still get nice video. There is also a setting for 34 miles per hour, but this only works if you disable obstacle avoidance. So, most often you want 11 or 22 miles per hour. If you're a beginner, stick with 11. Altitude limit is just that. Set your maximum altitude and the drone won't fly higher than that level. It wouldn't be a bad idea to set your max altitude to 400 feet so you stay in compliance with the rules. If I plan to fly up to that level, I will set my max altitude higher in the event that I have to avoid something like a helicopter. As a beginner, though, I encourage you to set yours to 400, 300, or even 200 feet and keep the drone close as you learn, and this altitude limit will help you with that. Along with altitude limit, we have distance limit. You can set a maximum altitude your drone will go before it won't go any further. Beginners, use this setting and limit yourself to 500 feet. That will help you keep the drone close as you learn how to fly. When you get to the point where you don't want a distance limit, you can toggle this option off. Finally, we have advanced settings. Under advanced settings, you can turn on or off your front LED indicators. The only reason I can see for doing this is if you're flying in a dark setting and you don't want the light from your indicator lights to interfere with your video. You're not supposed to fly after sunset anyway, so I don't expect that you'll use this setting very much. The next setting, EXP, is one that you will use. In my first impressions review, I said I thought the Evo was a pretty twitchy flyer. That means that it reacted aggressively to stick commands, so it was harder to get nice, smooth movements. You can adjust this by changing your EXP setting. Click on EXP and you see a line graph with a 0.50 beneath it. If you want to get nice, smooth video, I encourage you to change your EXP setting to 0.20 rather than 0.50. You can click on the number and type in 0.20. Just set it here and forget it, and your video quality will be better for doing it. Let's move on to the visual navigation map. The toggle at the top of the screen is to turn off or on your obstacle avoidance. Beginners, don't turn this off. The only reasons I can think of to turn off obstacle avoidance are to fly faster than 22 miles per hour, or if you need to fly closer to an object than the OA system will allow. Be smart. Keep this turned on. The next toggle turns off and on the radar map for the forward and rear obstacle warnings that appear on screen. Here is what the radar map looks like as you approach an obstacle. I suggest you leave radar map turned on. At the bottom of this screen is Advanced Settings. Press Advanced Settings for more visual navigation options. These include visual positioning, landing protection, and accurate landing. These are additional safety features built into the drone. You can shut them off, but why would you? The next left menu tab is Remote Control. Here you can calibrate your remote controller. You probably shouldn't mess with this unless you need to. We already talked about the command stick mode. You should leave this set in mode 2. The next tab is Image Transmission Signal. This graph shows the strength of your image transmission signal with buttons to change broadband settings and image transition mode. Changing these settings could affect the range of your image transmission. Aircraft battery status presents the status of the battery on your drone. You can change the settings for your low battery warning and your critically low battery warning here. Remember that your drone will trigger a return to home when it hits the low battery warning, which is 25% by default. If you override that return to home and continue to fly to the point of a critical low battery warning, the drone will attempt to land wherever it happens to be. The default for this is 15%. Be smart if you tinker with these. I keep the drone close as my battery runs down, so I'm going to adjust my critical battery warning to 10%. I can't change the low battery warning to lower than 25%. If you're a beginner, just leave these alone. Below those settings is a button for time to discharge. Your battery is set to discharge automatically if you leave it fully charged for too many days. This is done to protect the battery. You can change the number of days that the system will wait before automatically discharging here. Battery Details provides the serial number for your current battery. The Gimbal tab offers a few settings for your gimbal. Gimbal mode is interesting. It lets you choose between FPV mode and stabilized mode. FPV looks like you're buzzing around in a jet. The view will tilt to simulate banking the drone. Stabilized view gives you the nice, stable, balanced camera shots you typically want from a camera drone. You can also calibrate your gimbal from this screen. After you've updated the firmware to current version, I encourage you to calibrate your gimbal on a flat, level surface to help you avoid the tilted horizon problems. You can also manually adjust the tilt of your gimbal on this screen with Adjust Gimbal Roll Axis. But if you update your firmware and calibrate the gimbal, you shouldn't need to manually adjust. The Gimbal EXP allows you to adjust how aggressively your gimbal pitch moves up and down. Finally, we have the General tab. You can choose whether your home point is yourself or the aircraft's current position. Below that is units of measure, metric or imperial. You can choose to display the aircraft coordinates. Below that, you can view all the firmware versions of your system. You can also reset your choices to not display warnings, and click About for information on the app. That's it for Aircraft Settings menu. Now let's jump down to the Camera Settings menu, which is the folder icon with a wrench on it along the bottom right of the screen. This menu provides options for your display to help you get the most out of your camera. The top choice is Grid. This lets you draw a set of imaginary lines on your viewfinder screen to help you compose your shots. I like having the horizontal and vertical lines displayed. It's a great way to keep you thinking about the rule of thirds as you fly. Beneath that is Center Point, or a marker that shows the center of your screen. I haven't found much use for this, but it's there if you'd like it. Under that is Histogram. I'm not going to go into a detailed explanation of the histogram here. Just understand that you can turn it on or off in this menu. Personally, I like having the histogram on. Here's what the histogram looks like. You can drag it to another part of your screen with your fingertip if you'd like. The next option is Overexposure Warning, and this is something I find helpful with the Evo, since it tends to adjust its exposure settings very aggressively. When you turn this warning on, you will see a striped pattern, called a zebra pattern, on the viewfinder in any areas that are blown out through overexposure. Any detail in an overexposed area will be lost, so this warning will let you know that you need to adjust your exposure to darken the image if you want to keep those details. Here's what zebra striping looks like during a flight. Like the grid lines, the zebra striping appears only on your screen and it doesn't appear in the actual video you record. I like having the overexposure warning on, particularly with the Evo. Some people find it annoying or distracting, so they shut it off. You can try it for yourself and see what you like. The Subtitle ASS setting is just in case you decide you want to subtitle your ass, which may be helpful depending on what kind of video you're shooting, I guess. Okay, seriously, the ASS format is a standard format for subtitle files. I don't see much use for it in this application, so I just leave this turned off. Anti-flicker is something you probably won't worry about unless you're shooting a picture of a screen, maybe an electronic scoreboard in a stadium or something like that. Generally speaking, you can leave this in auto. Video encoding format is the next setting. H.264 is pretty much the mainstream setting for encoding. If you have a more advanced computer system and video editing software, you might want the newer H.265 setting. Realistically though, if you're going to use H.265, you probably know enough about video shooting that you don't need my explanation here. You should probably stick with H.264 in all other cases. If you tinker with your settings and want to reset the camera to its factory defaults, you can do that here. And you can also format the media card if you have one installed. At the bottom of the screen, the camera model and version numbers are displayed. That's it for the camera settings menu. Now, let's look at the camera parameter bar. Starting from the left, you can choose to turn on picture and video, which allows you to shoot low-resolution screen captures while you're recording video. You can set this to manual, which means the camera will shoot the still image only when you press the shutter button for it. You can also set it to shoot these still images at certain time intervals every 5, 10, 30, or 60 seconds. I don't see much value in this feature. These screen captures will be low resolution. You can grab a screen capture at the resolution of your video with your video editor program or with a free video viewer like MPC HC. Anyway, PIV is available if you want it. Next, you can pick NTSC or PAL. In the US, you want NTSC. If you're flying in other countries, check to see which format is right for your location. Next, you can pick the file format for your video, MP4 or MOV. I don't know that you'll see any difference with these. I shoot MP4 for all my stuff. I think Mac users might prefer MOV. Either one is fine. Next is resolution. You can choose 4K all the way down to 1280 by 720 resolution. I shoot everything at 4K because I want the largest image possible for editing purposes, but your computer might not even handle 4K. You may have to drop that down to 2.7K or 1080p so it works on your computer, especially if you don't plan to edit your video. Next is frame rate, and this goes hand in hand with resolution. If you choose 4K resolution, your choices for frame rates are limited to 24, 30, 48, and 60 frames per second. Same if you shoot at 2.7K resolution. If you shoot at 1080p, you can go as high as 120 frames per second. At 720p, you can shoot at 240 frames per second. If you want to shoot slow motion video, you want to record at higher frame rates, so it becomes a balancing act, choosing the highest resolution that you can that offers the frame rate you need for slow motion. I don't do slow motion work, so I leave my settings at 30 frames per second. Our next choice is auto or manual. In auto, the Evo will choose its own camera settings. In manual, you will choose the shutter speed and ISO to get the proper exposure for your shot. If you choose manual, your next two settings will be shutter speed and ISO. If you choose auto, the choices for shutter speed and ISO will be replaced with EV. With EV, or exposure value, you can force the camera to darken or lighten its automatic settings if you feel the drone is being fooled by current lighting conditions. This happens with all cameras, so it's a useful feature to have. See how the image gets darker and brighter as I change the EV? You can also change your exposure while in auto mode with something called auto exposure lock, but I'll cover that later. Use manual if you like to control the exposure settings yourself. Otherwise, use auto and tweak your exposure with EV or auto exposure lock. Next we have white balance. Different sources of light have different color temperatures. By default, the camera will measure and set its white balance automatically, and I think the Evo does a great job at this. But you can also pick presets for different situations like sunny day, cloudy, and others. You can see the effect on screen as I change these. The nice thing about picking one of these other options is that your white balance won't change as you fly. One option for white balance is actually to pick a Kelvin setting for your white balance. Generally, I think this is overkill unless I'm planning to match the drone video with footage from another camera that's shooting at the same time. I might pick a specific Kelvin setting for both cameras so their white balances match. Generally, unless you're shooting in a pretty strange situation, I think you'll be happy with the auto white balance. The next setting is color profiles. By default, this is set to none. But you can pick log if you plan to color grade your footage. Vivid if you want to really punch up the colors. And there are several other color profiles as well. I don't recommend using the other color profiles. If you shoot in black and white, for example, you can't bring the color back later. If you shoot in none or log, you can make it black and white whenever you want with a video editor. Style profile is next. This changes the contrast, saturation, and sharpness of what you record. People who get into color grading tend to drop down all of these settings. For most people, I think the default settings are fine. Now we have digital zoom. 1x is the default, but you can create an 8x digital zoom with this option. Remember, the more you zoom digitally, the more your image quality is degraded. Personally, if I'm going to zoom, I prefer to do it in post-production. That said, zoom is a really popular feature. I think Autel should find a place for this option more directly in the camera view so it's easier to access and use while you fly. But for now, it's buried here at the end of the camera option. That's it for the tour of the Autel Explorer App and Evo settings. Go through the menus and set the system to work the way you want before you fly, and you'll spend less time and attention fumbling with your settings while your drone is in the air. Thank you for watching this video. I set up a Facebook group to make it easier for us to talk and arrange opportunities to fly together. Follow the link in the description below to sign up for the group. On screen you'll find links to more videos on how to fly drones, so please check them out. Before you go, be sure to hit the like button. Also, subscribe to this channel so you know when more videos are released. Thanks for watching.